Hi, how's it going? So for this video, I thought it would be really interesting to just see what different watch brands are actually used in horror movies. And so we're gonna go over 8 different horror movies one by one from oldest to newest and see what watches are worn inside of them. Also, of course, this video might contain major spoilers for all of these movies, so I'm gonna try to segment the video so as to not spoil things for everyone. Anyway, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Number 8. To start things off, we're gonna go all the way back to 1973. When The Exorcist first came out, it was a very controversial movie and redefined the horror genre for its time, holding the title of highest grossing rated R movie until just recently in 2007 when It surpassed It. The movie involves a sickly possessed child and her mother who, wanting to cure her daughter, obviously goes to a physician, Dr. Berenger, for help.
What are you talking about, for Christ's sakes? Did you see her or not?
And in one of his scenes, Dr. Berenger's sleeve actually falls down slightly to reveal his 1960s Heuer Altiva reference 2446 chronograph. The watch is a relic from before Heuer became known as Tag Heuer in 1985, and unfortunately is not present in Tag Heuer's current lineup. This watch is a 40mm case, uses a manually wound Valjoux caliber 72, and looks to cost somewhere between $6,000 to $20,000, depending on the condition. My favorite part of this watch is definitely the red chronograph hand, which makes it really stand out against other Altiva models of this time. Number 7. This one actually got corrupted a bit, and I'm recording this a day later, you know, same shirt for continuity. Anyways, in 1984, the movie Ghostbusters became a cultural icon. The idea for the movie was pretty simple. You get 4 guys to work together to take down ghosts for money, and then you give them all pretty unique pieces of technology to make that happen. One of these pieces of tech looks like a simple watch, but it's a bit more than that. It's a limited edition Seiko M164009, otherwise known as the Seiko Voice Note. The idea behind this watch is that you could use the voice recorder for all of your ghost hunting needs. And you know, today you might just use like something like your iPhone to do that, but remember, this was the 1980s, so the fact that you could just record your voice on your watch was pretty bonkers. The case is 39mm, and interestingly, both the case and the bracelet are made from a carbon fiber and steel mixture, making the entire watch pretty light. It costs around $650, adjusted for inflation back in the 1980s, and doesn't look like it sold too well. If you want this watch today, the only ones I found for sale are between $1,000 to $3,000, which is a price you'll just have to pay if you want the ultimate Ghostbusters outfit. Number 6. The 1986 movie Aliens, plural, not to be confused with the first version, which was just Alien singular, is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. We get to see Ripley come back for round 2 as she's basically forced to go with an expedition team to examine what happened to a human colony on a planet that's known to have a bunch of little baby alien eggs ready for hatching.
But each one of these things comes from an egg, right? So who's laying these eggs?
Obviously, this just ends as a giant firefight between Ripley and the Xenomorphs, but we do get to see a few scenes of her showing off her beautiful Seiko Giugiaro 7A28-7000, nicknamed the Seiko Ripley. The Giugiaro part of the name actually comes from the Italian car designer Giugiaro that helped produce the watch, and just a fun fact, another one of Giugiaro's designs is actually the DeLorean. Anyways, the watch has this massive bar on one side which contains 2 black pushers for the chronograph function. The case is 43mm, made of stainless steel, and uses a quartz Seiko movement inside. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any of these original watches for sale at the time of this video, but Seiko did do a reissued version of it back in 2015, which they sold at retail for $300, and the thing is, they don't sell them anymore as they were a limited edition, but you can still find them from some third-party sellers. Unfortunately though, they do cost upwards of $1,000 now. Number 5.
Oh, very nice.
There's something sweet about you.
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Finally, in the year 2000, we have a movie that decides to use something other than a Seiko watch. Or does it? This one's a bit of a controversy, but first, let me talk about American Psycho. It's a movie with one of my personal favorite actors of all time, Christian Bale, playing an investment banker, Patrick Bateman, who turns out to be either a crazy man that murders a bunch of people, or a crazy man that imagines himself murdering a bunch of people. Either way, when I was doing research for this video, I noticed a lot of websites referring that the watch used in this movie was a Rolex Datejust. But it turns out that Rolex wasn't a fan of a crazy person wearing their watch and killing people, so instead the producers used a Seiko that looks so much like a Rolex that most people, including myself, just assumed it was a Rolex, but it's not. It's the Seiko reference SNXJ90. And if you don't believe me, notice how the Seiko has the crown at an angle while the Rolex has the crown at 3 o'clock. Now look at this picture from the movie. Where's the crown? Not at 3 o'clock. Also, in the book that the movie is based off on, there's a specific line that says don't touch the Rolex, but in the movie it's actually changed just to don't touch the watch.
Don't touch the watch.
Because after all, it's not a Rolex, it's a Seiko. I rest my case. Anyways, the Seiko has a diameter of 36 millimeters. It is made from gold and stainless steel, and it is powered by an automatic Seiko movement. They don't make this variation currently, but you can find them online between $300 to $400, making it a few $1,000s cheaper than the Rolex everyone thinks this is. Plus, then you have a nice quirky story to go along with your watch. Number 4.
You all possess the combination in the back of your mind. Let the game begin.
We finally arrived at what is arguably my favorite movie franchise on this list, Saw, and we'll be talking specifically about the movie Saw 2, which was released in 2005. In Saw 2, Detective Eric Matthews is chasing down the Jigsaw killer and eventually confronts him in an old factory, but then he realizes that his son was kidnapped and put into a deadly game by Jigsaw himself. And so this new bit of information makes the detective pretty upset, and eventually he loses his cool long enough for us to get a nice good look at his black G-Shock G2 500. This watch is built tough, which is a good thing considering what the detective puts it through in the movie. It's got a 48mm case, so it's definitely on the larger side. It's powered by a Casio quartz movement, and the case is made of a resin for impact protection. Retail for this watch is supposed to be around $100, although it is surprisingly difficult to find online, especially considering, it's gone out of production and everything. But after some sleuthing around, I was able to find a Taiwanese store that still had them in stock if you're interested. Number 3, Zombies. In the 2013 movie World War Z, the undead basically take over the world, and as humanity searches for a way to fight off the zombie virus pandemic, Brad Pitt repeatedly finds himself in pretty dire situations as a UN agent. It's helpful then that his watch, a Terra Cielo Mare orienteering variant, has a sun compass built into it, so he doesn't get lost in all of the chaos. The brand Terra Cielo Mare is a pretty small watch brand, and the name is Italian for Earth, Sky, and Sea. The watch itself is pretty beefy at 44mm, has a titanium case. After some digging around, it looks like the brand had some sort of financial difficulty, but they're supposed to restart production in November of 2021, so until then, it's pretty hard to find these online. If you were to find one, expect to pay around $3,000 for this specific variant. Which, it's not a lot of money, especially if you want the latest and greatest for the upcoming zombie apocalypse. Number 2.
Our target for this year's Purge is hiding in your home. You have 1 hour to find him and give him to us.
For the most affordable watch on this list, we have to take a look at 2013's The Purge. The idea for this movie is actually pretty simple. Just instead of incarcerating like a bunch of people for illegal stuff, just make everything legal only 1 time a year, and so everyone just gets it out of their system then and is peaceful for the rest of the year, hopefully. In The Purge 2013, James Sadden, one of our main characters, is held up in his LA mansion and then is basically forced to protect his family. Thankfully, in one of the scenes, we can see what this tycoon of industry is wearing for his wrist, and it just happens to be a Mossimo Supply Co. silver watch. It's pretty hard to find data on this watch, especially because it's made not from a traditional watch company, but from more of a fashion brand and accessories company that just happens to make watches on the side, but we can safely assume that it has some sort of quartz movement inside. Like many other watches on this list, it's kind of hard to find, especially since I said it's not from a traditional watch company, but at the time of this video, I was able to find at least one for sale for around $20, including shipping fees, making for a very, very affordable movie watch if you're in the market for one. Number 1. For the most recent movie on this list, we have Army of the Dead, which was exclusively released on Netflix in 2021. Unlike other zombie movies where undead are sort of mindless, in this one they form a sort of a hierarchy and become somewhat sentient with rules and order, which is honestly pretty cool. During our team's mission to crack open a safe inside of zombie territory, our team safecracker, Matthias Schwengengoffer,
Schweighofer.
is seen wearing what must be typical safe cracking equipment in the form of a Casio databank DBC611-1. This trusty little computer has a calculator, timer, digital storage, and calendar, among other functions. The watch is a bit long at 46.5 millimeters, but not too wide at 33.1 millimeters, so it should wear nicely on the wrist. The case is made out of a resin material, while the band is steel, and it can all be had for the small price of around $60 online, which is definitely a steal for something that will for sure be a conversation starter wherever you go. That was it. 8 different wristwatches from 8 different horror movies, all ranked by release date. I hope you found this video interesting. It was definitely interesting for me to both research and film this. If you don't mind, I would very much appreciate it if you could smash that like and subscribe button, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Goodbye.